Hello everyone, welcome to episode 14 of Last Minute FPL. This is a short Gameweek 14 podcast, a midweek episode. Hi Vikas, how are you?
Hey, doing well. And earlier than usual. Usually we do this on the Thursdays. But since we have the midweek fixtures and a lot of congestion coming up, we're doing this earlier in the week. And this, as Shank mentioned, is going to be a shorter one covering some of the key topics for the deadline tomorrow.
Yeah, and also a more last minute episode than usual, just a few hours before the deadline. A lot of price changes have also happened. Let's dive in. We'll start by looking at the mini league standings. Some incredible scorelines this week with all the big hitters doing extremely well. It's very nice to see that Sampath's team was not affected by the podcast at all. He got a whopping 97 points, same as Tarun, and they're all sitting in the lofty top 100k. What stood out last week from you in general?
I think it's the big in midfield, right? That's the key topic. You have the big 4 or 5 players: Bruno, Saka, Salah, Palmer, and between them you have pretty much 50 points, and with captaincy even more. That was the highlight, and I had 2 of them. I had Salah and Palmer, so not too bad. But as a Haaland owner, it's getting more painful day by day. I think I'm just thinking, is it time to accept defeat? Because there's just so much more you can do by spreading that money around, given the way Saka is performing, and even Gabriel, who's just showing what an attacking threat he is just from the underlying data, also reproducing it in terms of points, grabbing a goal and assist. It was, a really, really good week for a lot of players, because a lot of these assets who people owned also returned pretty heavily. Not a great week for me personally, but I think a very exciting week in FPL.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about Haaland when we look at our next week's teams. But yeah, I think this week was mainly about those big hitters. And then there were quite a few highly owned assets, like you said, that did well and that kept some of the people apart. Like, for example, the difference between Tarun and Sampath getting 97 points, and let's say there were different tiers of people, right? Like the AI team got 86, and it had Palmer and Salah, like you, but it also had Havertz scoring. It also had Trent getting a clean sheet, and it also had Brennan Johnson getting 10 points, even though Saka wasn't there. But because Saka got 18 points, and I think the last 2 weeks he really turned it on, and FPL players who got him a couple of weeks ago are really enjoying his hauls.
Yeah, I didn't expect that, honestly, from Saka, because I thought his ceiling is pretty low. So I definitely got that wrong, because I thought he was the most dispensable of the lot, like in terms of Haaland, Salah, Palmer, Saka. I thought Saka's the one player I'm okay going without, even though he had pretty good fixtures because of that ceiling. But he's clearly shattered that ceiling with how he's doing.
Yeah, and some managers even captained him for a really good score. Like Varun captained him, and I think even Vishnu captained him. Like coming to my team, I got 72 points. So I also had Brennan Johnson. I had Gabriel for his 9 points. Fun fact, Gabriel has the same number of non-penalty goals as Bruno in the last since the start of last season, which is an incredible stat. And like even in terms of XG, I think Gabriel has 7 XG and 7 goals. Bruno's underperforming slightly. He has 11 XG and 7 goals, but to match an asset like Bruno is incredible. And I think I also the transfer I made last week was to get Joao Pedro in, and he didn't really return, and Solanke didn't really play. So it was mainly the big hitters, and Brennan kind of doing a budget Saka performance. Like last week when Saka got 13, Brennan got 6, and this week when he got 18, he got 10. And both weeks I had the option of doing Johnson to Saka, and I thought Johnson will do well, which he did.
He's doing well, but his price point, I think, has been incredible for you, right?
Yeah, it's just that the difference between him and Saka in terms of raw points is still quite high. I think that explains that 20-25 point difference, because I think someone like Sampath also had Wissa getting 8 points. So when it happens that players like that also score high, I think that's where the week really stands out.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we spoke enough about last week's games. Why don't we take a look at the next week's matches? So yeah, like our trusted infograph, which summarizes everything in one place. This is the projected goals and clean sheets for next game week. What stands out for you here, Vikas?
There's just one game that I'm really looking forward to, which is the Man City game. Man City versus Forest. Still on the Haaland train, and I think he's in his last chance saloon for me at the moment. I know it's already very late, and I'm just seeing, what I can do with my team without him, and it's ridiculous. It's not even close in terms of, what the players I can have by selling Haaland versus the players that I do have with Haaland. And with Haaland not doing well himself, it's an absolute disaster, the state of my team. So the City, but interestingly, over the next 10 fixtures, City are top of the ticker from a fixture perspective. City are one for both attack and defense. I have Haaland. I think I'll wait for the next 1 or 2 or 3 weeks. So maybe the next 3 are going to be crucial for me to give up on Haaland or whether decide to keep him on. So yeah, really looking forward to the City Forest game to see whether there is a turnaround there for City and Haaland especially.
Yeah, I think in your position, I would keep Haaland, mainly because he's a great differential to use to catch up to people, because everyone at the top doesn't have Haaland. So even if Haaland does well, it really won't affect them in the ranks around them. And for someone like me, who's, let's say, 70-80 points behind them, I have the same premium structure, Palmer, Saka and Salah. So gaining using captaincy or gaining using the premiums is going to be tough, and I'll have to hope for people like Solanke and Brennan Johnson and Mbuemos and like these mid-priced Isak, like that. Gaining so much with that is not as easy, and with Haaland having such amazing fixtures, you could really go with captaining him and hoping that City return to their typical December form, where they just start reeking of 3 points after 3 points and goals after goals. I think that's a very
that's my hope. But City look really bad, and their team is aging, and this is unprecedented. City are in a situation which they've never been over the past 6-7, even pre-Guardiola maybe era. I remember a time they've lost 5 in a row, 6 in a row. It's pretty crazy what's happening. But yeah, I think this is not the right time to sell him because they are top of the fixtures now for the next 10, like I said. So it makes sense to wait for 3 to 4. But I think if he needs to do really well, he needs to be a captaincy option in most weeks. That's when he's worth it at that price point. I feel nervous about captaining him this week. Do you think he's a good shout, captaincy option for this week? But I'm nervous, and if that's going to be the case moving forward, then he's a sell, a 15 million asset who you're not captaining. Makes no sense to hold on. Just cut losses and move.
Yeah, I think it's purely a fixtures play. I think it still makes sense. Even if City are bad, their fixtures are still good. So if we look at even inferior teams and we look at their good fixtures and we get them in, I think City are still a very good team. Even if you take a 10% or a 20% cut on what they usually are, I think I would captain him this week. Forest at home. Even if you look at the projected goals, the main contenders for captaincy this week, according to me, I think the main contender is Palmer. Southampton have looked really bad, and I think you are in a better place to comment on him, because even in the previous game week, he did look like he was not such a big goal threat till the very end, and he got that late goal just before getting subbed, which made him a 14-point return. But if he had finished on 5 or 6 points, our game weeks would have looked a lot worse, and I don't think so many people would be excited to captain him, even though it's Southampton. So I think that
the tempting thing with the Southampton game is they have injuries. They have Ramsdale out. They have Harvard Bellis who's out, who's been very important for them at the back. They have, I think, a few injuries in midfield as well. Dibbling is out, if I'm not mistaken. So they're a depleted squad, and Palmer has so many avenues to points. Like, you're right. In the previous game, he was not very involved in the attacking areas as much throughout the game, but he had these moments of magic, which he can pull out at any point in time. He can get a penalty. Uh, he's just a magnet for points, especially in the easier games, and which you've seen, right? Like, as soon as Chelsea's fixtures done, Palmer's back in the points. And given he's a midfielder, we have seen, even just one goal, like Brennan Johnson goal, you're up to 10 points with just a goal and maybe a clean sheet. You have 10 points in the bag, and that's where I'm tempted with Palmer.
Yeah, I think for me it basically comes. So I don't own Haaland, so for me it's a straightforward decision to captain Palmer because I think he has the best fixture out of the premiums. But when it comes to Haaland, even when City have been doing badly, he has been continuously getting that volume of chances. Like even against Spurs, there were a lot of chances that he was wasteful of, and if you are hoping for that to turn, I think. And that's what remains to be seen with Palmer. Early on in the season, he was involved with everything. He was getting a lot of shots. He was getting the volume of shots and quality of shots. So if you feel that that is still a thing with Palmer, then maybe I'd go for him. But yeah,
I think I'm going to go with Palmer just because I want to see City back at their best, and again, like before the tougher run which they had Fulham at home, Fulham away, Southampton at home, Bournemouth away, Brighton away, and Haaland got 2-2, 6-2-5 in those games. Very uninspiring. Like and the circumstances were also in his favor. In the Southampton at home game, if you remember, his XG was 2.33.
Yeah.
Triple captained him. He got a singular goal with some yellow cards thrown in or something like that, and end up with 6 points. So I think I want to wait this week, but if he doesn't at least score a goal or like a brace this week, goal or brace, I'll be very nervous because I'm not sure next week whether I want to captain him, and that's when I start thinking about selling because I think I'm pretty much sorted out with the rest of the team. I had a lot of other fires to put out. I think I'm okay now with the rest of the team. So this is where I think about whether I want to keep him or not. So this fixture is super important.
Yeah, and I think Forest is not exactly such a simple fixture that you can ignore the form and go with it. Maybe it does. But one thing I want to say is that in terms of his XG, I feel he's not become a bad player overnight, and he will return to, at like 2.33 XG and scoring one goal. Like he did that over a series of games now. Like it has to change for the better at some point. And I feel given the fixture run coming up, he is in a good place to make that return. But I agree with you. Like maybe captaining him right now feels like a risk too much. But given your rank, I think maybe you can afford to take that risk and hope to get rewarded. Like it's more about your risk appetite at this point. But other than the City Forest game, I'm surprised to see the Arsenal. Like I mean, there are basically 4 teams that are expected to score over 2 goals. Chelsea against Southampton, you would expect to see that. Arsenal against United, I'm a little.
That's crazy. 2.2.
Yeah, and even the clean sheet odds, like they have the second highest clean sheet odds with 40%. I was basically thinking of doing either Saliba to Trent or to get Saka in. And I thought maybe I should do the Saliba to Trent move because they're playing United, and United usually at least scores a goal even in the big games. But then I saw this and I decided to go with Saka because I don't want to go another week. Because I do have only 2 premiums. Like you at least have Haaland instead of Saka. It doesn't feel too bad. So yeah, I basically it came down to whether I should get rid of Mbeumo or Brennan Johnson, and for now I got rid of Mbeumo. But yeah, very interesting to see that Arsenal are projected to score so many goals and have a high clean sheet on.
Any other games that you're looking forward to this week?
Yeah, and I think the other interesting game is Bournemouth Spurs. It looks like it's a very neck and neck game. 1.7, 1.9 also looks like there are some goals in it. And I think some important FPL players also involved. Semenyo, Solanke, Brennan. And I think it remains to be seen if Solanke is back from illness. But yeah, I think that could be Spurs have been so unpredictable, losing to Ipswich, then thrashing City. and then they didn't look really good against Fulham at all. They got lucky to come away with a draw. Um, and I think the other game that's interesting is Newcastle Liverpool. Do you think this is a fair? Do you think Newcastle away is a tough fixture for Liverpool, tougher than normal because Liverpool have looked incredible? Would you still be tempted to go Salah captain because he's got so many double-digit returns now? It's like 10 out of 13 or something.
I mean, it's hard to bet against him the way he's playing and the points he's getting. So yeah, hard to bet against Salah, but at the same time, I would still go for a Palmer versus Southampton, just because I think, I mean, Palmer's also on 100 points. Salah's on 100 plus points. Palmer's also on 100 points. Southampton just an easier fixture, especially with the defensive frailties that they have with injuries. I would go with what I think is a higher ceiling.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Cool. Yeah, is there any other game you want to talk about, or we can move on?
I think we can move on, yeah.
Okay. Let's look at our next week's teams now. And we'll take some more time talking through the options in different positions here because we're not going into the position-wise projections. But this is the AI team on 840 points and back in the top 100K after last week. 2 transfers made. Interesting that it took a hit and it also finally got rid of Havertz. I think this is the first time since Gameweek 1 that the AI team doesn't own Havertz, even though he scored last week. So the moves that it made are to get rid of Chris Wood. And Chris Wood for a while has been pretty low in the projections. And the most interesting thing that I saw this week in the AI projections was that Cunha is the highest projected forward for the next 4 game weeks. And the other player that it brought in was Joao Pedro. So Wood and Havertz out, Cunha and Joao Pedro in for a -4. Palmer captain against Southampton. And yeah, I was a little surprised to see Cunha highest projected. Maybe it's a fixtures and form thing because his underlying data hasn't been the best. Like he's someone who's averaging less than half XGI per 90. And so that puts him outside the top 30 midfielders and attackers in terms of XGI per 90.
Must be the fixtures mainly.
Yeah.
The next 3, Everton can be tricky, but then they have West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester. And very hard to get better than those 3.
Yeah, and Everton were pretty bad against United too. Like they made a lot of mistakes, and so yeah, I think the next 4 look very, very exciting.
Yeah, I really wish I could have. I think I've reached a point with Wolves players where I feel like I've already missed out. And that's dangerous because you're just writing off future points, even though, like you said, they're still really great options to have. You can quite feasibly move them out 4 game weeks later after getting like 30-40 points from, say, Cunha.
Yeah, and he's not exactly cheap. He's 7.1. Like typically for a Wolves forward, that does feel like a lot. And that's why the AI team also had to take a hit to get him in. It couldn't do Wood to Cunha for a free transfer, which I was surprised by. But yeah, I think people who already own him or people who still want to get him will definitely be happy with the fixture run. But yeah, my thinking was the same. I thought let me look elsewhere. Not just because of a differential thing, but I thought that it's better to prioritize getting Saka in, and I feel like my mid-priced options are still okay options. Like Solanke, I think should, if he's back, still do well. Anything else? The defense, still the big 3 teams in defense with Guardiola, Trent, and Timber. Guardiola didn't play last week, so it remains to be seen if he keeps his spot.
That was very surprising.
Yeah.
I think quite a few surprises in that team, which at the end of the day didn't make much of a difference, but very interesting to see that City lineup.
Yeah, no Edison.
And very promising for Rico Lewis because he somehow finds a way to maintain a spot on the team even though he gets no points. So at the end of the day, the most excitement with Rico Lewis that you get is during the team sheet.
That's very true. And like this time even more so because it looked like he was going to play right wing. in the front three. When I saw the lineup, I was like, wow, this can be exciting. But then I also remembered that every time he plays in midfield, he somehow ends up with 0 or 1 point, and that's the same thing that happened again. He got a 1 point. He did have a good chance that he put wide, but yeah, it looks like he's gonna play in the team one way or the other. And if Guardiola doesn't play, Mikolenko should come in. So that should be okay as well. And keeping Trent was rewarding last weekend for the AI team. And Timber is an interesting one. The only reason he came in was because the AI team was short of money on Gabriel last week. So definitely missed out on some points there. But Timber has looked pretty attacking in the past few weeks too.
I think Timber's a great option, honestly. With the double up with Gabriel, I think that's pretty strong moving forward.
Yeah, I'm regretting my Saliba move a bit because Timber has established himself in the team and White is out for such a long time. But yeah, and Fabianski's going to play ahead of Cells. So maybe this is the second time that the AI team is playing him. So let's see what... let's see if he gets another clean sheet again. Okay, moving on to my team. Yeah, so the move I made was Mbeumo to Saka. The other option I was considering was Johnson to Saka. Because I do feel that Johnson might get benched. He played 90 minutes last week and he was benched against City. But I think this gives me a little more flexibility in making another transfer because Mbeumo is more expensive. I have a little more money in the bank. If I had done Johnson to Saka, I would have had exact money to do Saliba to Trent. And I do want Trent from game week 15. I very reluctantly sold him over the international break thinking that he would miss at least a couple of games. But he came right back after missing one and already kept a clean sheet. I think Liverpool's fixture run is great. And somehow I'm able to fit in the 3 premiums and Trent and Gabriel while still having a decent front line. And Rico Lewis, I mean, I guess if City's fixture run becomes good and he has that starting spot nailed, maybe I'll just end up keeping him because I've had other moves to make, but let's see, because next week also I'm already booking in my move of Saliba to Trent, so I don't know when I'll get to removing Lewis. Raul I'm actually happy with. He again had a great chance against Spurs that he missed. He had almost 0.7 xg. And interestingly, I saw Let's Talk FPL Andy tweet about this, that in the past 2 game weeks, Raul's XG is greater than Cunha's XG in the last 4.
So he's missed a lot of big chances. Like even this week, I think he missed a very easy chance to score. So it's uncharacteristic of Raul because he's usually a quality finisher.
Yeah.
Very unlucky, I think, Raul on us.
Yeah, and Joao Pedro I'm okay with keeping. Maybe Johnson and Solanke is the spot that could see me make a transfer in the coming weeks after the Saliba to Trent move. But yeah, otherwise pretty happy with this team for this week. Only thing I'm concerned about is the Arsenal double defense, but looks like the odds are stacked against United.
Yeah, I see a lot of green arrows for this team. It looks so strong. It's very well distributed with, especially if you get Trent in, all the Haaland money is put to good use. It seems like a squad where, really spread things out. Makes me very jealous with, what you'll see in my team with the defense that props up and seeing, Gabriel and Trent, which is basically the extra Haaland money coming in to use there. It makes such a big difference. I think one of the things you could maybe consider is moving like a Raul to a Strand Larsen for the next 4. That I think again gets you some ceiling, especially if you don't want to play Rodgers in some games, because I think Raul does have a few tougher fixtures coming up.
Yeah, I was hoping to rotate Rodgers and Jimenez in those games, but yeah, that's an option to look at. I mean, I didn't want to go Strand Larsen because Cunha was the one putting up decent numbers, and he was the one who seemed like the main man. And Strand Larsen's XG per 90 was very low. It was something like 0.25. But yeah, given the fixture run and the price, it's a decent option to go for. So maybe after the Trent move, that's where I'll look.
Yeah, actually, if you look at it over the season, Cunha just has 2 more attacking returns than Strand Larsen. Cunha's on 10, Strand Larsen's on 8. Although I think the attacking data is much better for Cunha.
Yeah. And I think this week also a lot of managers sold Stan Larsen for Pedro and paid the price. Although they got a double price rise, but they lost out on points. Um, yeah, I think the only thing I'm a little concerned about is the fact that my team looks too much like the teams I'm chasing, and those teams are already 80 to 100 points ahead of me, and I'm not giving myself a path even to get there. But for now, I think
more than mini league, but
yeah,
I think you'll get a lot of green arrows compared to the worldwide player base. Like you will get in. If this team looks like it will do well, if it does well, you should get into the top 1,500,000 and make progress that way. Although yeah, you're right from a mini league perspective. Where do you get that differential from it? That's challenging. I think Haaland's the only route there at the moment, or Son, maybe someone like Son.
Yeah, Son is a good option, and also these mini, like I'll have to basically identify the players in those mid-price range.
Yeah, like Johnson, for example, but very difficult. Like
Exactly.
you need to find someone who has a high ceiling but is not very consistent enough that everyone just gets that person in.
Yeah.
Like you need to find a Coutinho, for example.
Yeah, it's not going to happen like in 2-3 weeks. Like it's not going to happen with the premiums. It'll have to be some steady gains made by the defensive picks and your other differentials. But yeah, okay, let's go into your team now. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, seeing Haaland with Nottingham Forest at home definitely makes me a bit jealous.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope it's at least a brace in this game. I mean, that's sorely needed. I think it's more from a confidence perspective. If I see City doing well, like, with this fixture turn and Haaland back on the score sheet, it's going to make me confident to start captaining him moving forward. Like, this Crystal Palace away, Villa who are really bad right now defensively. Villa away, Everton home, Leicester away, West Ham home, Brentford away, Ipswich home. These are literally the next 8 fixtures with Man United as well added on.
Incredible run.
That's incredible. It's one of the best runs I think that I've seen. Like which shows in the fixture ticker that top. I just need the confidence to start captaining him, and this game is very important for that. Yeah. Apart from that, the one move I made is flecking out for Sanchez. The much touted transfer finally has taken place. Pretty happy with that. I hope Sanchez keeps his place. The most annoying thing will be now if Jorgensen starts coming in and starts rotating around in midweek fixtures. Hope that doesn't happen. I think Maresca is pretty clear in his demarcation between like Team A and Team B. So I expect Sanchez to continue in the Premier League. Chelsea have an incredible run. Again, similar to City. Southampton away. I considered 2 moves this week. One is either getting Jackson or Sanchez, because I think both will do well. I did go for Sanchez because one, I can, like I have 0.2 million. I can't do it in one move directly to try and get Jackson. I need to take a hit. And I do expect Chelsea to keep a clean sheet versus Southampton. And I get flacken out and have a good team in my as a keeper. The other players that I did consider briefly, at least from a defensive perspective, because my defense is in shambles. I have Aitnouri, Lewis, Mikolenko, Greaves, and Hall. Greaves has just completely disappeared, even though he's fit. And then I saw a quote somewhere that Kieran McKenna doesn't keep centre backs as substitutes, which is very strange. I don't know what happens if someone gets an injury now. So, but anyway, with this type of thing, I guess the positive is, he's not going to get 1 pointer.
Yeah.
Or like just he's either going to miss out at them, but he's still a problem on my bench. I need to do something about Greaves. I need to do something about Mikolenko after this week, because his fixtures become awful after this week. Aitnouri is doing nothing since I got him, basically.
I think you got a clean sheet. You got a clean sheet out of him, at least.
Yeah. But very uninspiring. So really need to do something about Mikolenko and Greaves ASAP, and then soon after that, maybe Aitnouri as well, and Lewis probably. So I'm on the market for defenders. Of course, I want Gabriel, but that'll require some downgrading, either Mbuemo or Solanke. That's in my mind. And apart from that, I'm looking at Van Heck, Colville, Gomez. Now that Konate is injured, I think Gomez is starting. If he continues starting, 4.8, these are the players that I need and I'm looking for. So I'm strongly considering Gomez, who can directly slot in for Right Nori, for example. I'm also looking at Bournemouth defenders like Kirkes. So these are the players that I'm targeting. It all depends on kind of how I juggle things around. Mikolenko will go next week, and then after that, probably Ait Nori, and one of these defenders from this list will come in.
Yeah, I think even the AI agrees with you with Bournemouth defenders. It rates Kirk is pretty highly. And also Munoz from Palace, but I don't think the fixtures are that great. And also Newcastle defenders, whoever ends up playing and getting the highest expected minutes. Apart from those, I think that what you said makes sense in terms of moving out Greaves and Mikolenko earlier, but it's not. But it's, I think, optimize your starting 11 and maybe one on the bench. So, for example, if you maybe you can use a transfer to get rid of Mikolenko because his fixtures turn. But Greaves at his price, it's okay if he's stuck on the bench because things will start moving fast. You will see injuries. You will see like players becoming options, players returning. Maybe someone gets injured and someone else is nailed. So I wouldn't waste a transfer on Greaves at this stage because you also have Hall. And whenever he has good games, you can play him. And Ait Nuri still has a good run of fixtures. I think the main thing is Solanke. Are you comfortable keeping him in the medium term? Because it's been so up and down with him.
Yeah, he's my route to Gabriel, potentially. So one of the transfers I was thinking of, Solanke to Strand Larsen for the next 3-4 and then move Mikolenko to Gabriel. I can do that with the funds that I have. Unless, price raises, then I get caught out. But that's one of the moves I'm thinking about. He's my route to Gabriel. But apart from that, I don't see him as a must sell or something like that.
Yeah.
It's more of what can I do with my team with that extra money. The other defender that I think and team in general that I wanted to touch on is West Ham. I know they had a very bad game against Arsenal, but they do have some good fixtures coming up. Van Bissaka is on some scoring run at the moment. So he's also another player that I briefly considered to sort of my defense. I think he's got 2 goals in the last 2 games, playing pretty attacking, and he has Leicester, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brighton, and Southampton in the next 5. West Ham, extremely unreliable, not playing well. Those are the reasons I'm not getting him, but he's briefly in my thoughts as well.
Yeah.
Bowen in field as well to replace Mbuemo.
Yeah, Bowen is someone who's rated highly by the AI too. Speaking of midfield, Kluivert is another player. If he gets the minutes for Bournemouth, he's rated pretty highly. And Odegaard, now that he's back and Arsenal have a good run of games, if you're looking for a differential at a cheaper price, maybe you want to move Bruno out because of his tougher fixtures, he's an option. And Eze, whenever he's back, and Son as a differential. Those are some of the midfield options.
Yeah. For forwards, I really wish I could have Jackson. He's the one player that I really, really want, but he's gone up to 8.1.
Yeah.
I wanted to. My initial idea was to swap Solanke to Jackson. They were similar priced. Now it's a 0.6 million difference. It's quite a big difference, and I don't think I can get Jackson, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think same thing happened to the AI team. Basically, the top 3 projected forwards by the AI are Cunha, then Jackson, and then Haaland. So Jackson is really highly rated. Fixtures are amazing. Form has been exceptional. And in fact, the AI team had Jackson a few weeks ago. It moved on from him to Isak when Chelsea had a couple of tricky games. But now, basically, it couldn't get both Cunha and Jackson. Otherwise, Jackson is, even for me, I feel Jackson is that one player who, in those mid-priced ranges, we could get caught out because Chelsea are so free scoring. And even on the weekend when I saw Chelsea, the notification for Chelsea won Villa 0, and I opened it and I saw Jackson, and my heart sank. I was like, oh, this is the one player who a lot of people own, and because I had Palmer captain. And that's happened a lot this season. I hope that it's Palmer and I mean,
he's playing well. His conversion rate is the highest in the league at the moment. He looks like a completely different player to last season, and with this amazing run that Chelsea have, he'll continue starting. He might get the odd rest here and there for Nkunku, but he will play majority of the minutes.
Yeah, and some of the other forwards, like you said, Strand Larsen has a good run of games. Joao Pedro still has a great run of games, and he's rising in price regularly at that low price. So at the very least, you'll get some team value. Vissa is still doing well. He scored last week, got 8 points. But yeah, Brentford's fixtures do turn for the worse.
Yeah.
I don't think I think maybe this is the time to get rid of players like Wood and maybe even Watkins. Like he's also has had a couple of tough games. He will continue to score, but I think there are better people at cheaper prices.
Agree.
Cool. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I think that's about it. Captaining Palmer mostly, and yeah, that hopefully this my defense really needs to step up this week. Get a clean sheet or two, and Haaland needs to go big. That's going to define the game week, and I'm hoping that this can be the start of something good.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this Salah Palmer Saka setup, at least I can leave that alone for a while and make my moves in the other places. And once Trent also comes in, maybe I don't have to touch the defense and the big three, and I can focus all my moves on because especially in this December time period, the game weeks are going to come thick and fast. We may not even have time to look at what's happening in the matches. So yeah, I'm hoping for a good week. Thank you.
Wish everyone the best of luck.
Bye.